In February 2022, one of the most significant wars in Europe since World War II broke out. A complex conflict intertwining politics, history, and geography, between Russia and Ukraine, with global powers standing behind each side. To understand the roots of this conflict, we must go back to 1991 when the Soviet Union collapsed, and Ukraine became an independent state. For Russia, this shift meant the loss of strategic regions that had been part of its sphere of influence for decades. Over time, Ukraine took steps toward the West, including ambitions to join the European Union and NATO, raising Russia's concerns. NATO's expansion eastward has always been a source of concern for Russia. Since the 1990s, several countries that were part of the Soviet Union or within its influence, such as Poland and the Baltic states, joined NATO. For Russia, Ukraine was a vital station, as having NATO forces on its eastern borders would pose a significant threat to its national security. In 2014, Ukraine experienced a revolution that ousted the pro-Russian president, Viktor Yanukovych. These events angered Russia, which saw them as a Western plot to pull Ukraine definitively toward the West. In response, Russia annexed Crimea, where a strategic Russian naval base is located on the Black Sea. This move drew widespread international condemnation, but Russia viewed it as a defensive step to protect its interests. Crimea's annexation was just the beginning of the conflict. In eastern Ukraine, particularly in the Donetsk and Luhansk regions, fighting broke out between Ukrainian forces and separatists backed by Russia. These regions, home to a Russian-speaking majority, sought to break away from Ukraine, with indirect military support from Russia. Since 2014, these areas have witnessed a protracted war of attrition that continues to this day. On February 24, 2022, Russia decided to take a new step by launching a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Russian President Vladimir Putin justified the move as necessary to demilitarize Ukraine and prevent NATO's expansion to Russia's borders. However, the invasion led to international outcry and increased military support for Ukraine from the West. Despite initial expectations of a quick Ukrainian collapse, Ukrainian forces showed strong resistance, bolstered by increasing Western support. The United States and the European Union provided Ukraine with modern weapons, helping it repel Russian advances in several areas. In response, Western countries imposed widespread economic sanctions on Russia, targeting energy and banking sectors. For Russia, NATO's expansion was not just a theoretical threat but a real danger to its national security. Since the 1990s, the red line had been the presence of NATO forces on its borders. With the increasing possibility of Ukraine joining NATO, Russia felt compelled to intervene. However, this intervention led to escalated tensions with the West and the continuation of the war without any clear end in sight. This war was not just a military conflict but also a humanitarian and economic crisis. Millions of Ukrainians were displaced and sought refuge in European countries, while Russia was also affected by economic sanctions that hit its local economy. The conflict has caused global energy and food crises, further complicating the situation. Despite diplomatic efforts to reach a solution, negotiations have not yet led to tangible results. The war continues on the ground, with ongoing fighting and exchanged attacks. The question remains, will peace come through negotiations, or will this conflict drag on for years? The war between Russia and Ukraine is not just a regional conflict but a reflection of deep international tensions and security fears that have spanned decades. Between NATO's expansion and Russia's concerns, and between Ukraine's resistance and Western support, the world watches and waits for what will come next.